Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. John Kelly Profiler here, and welcome. Welcome to our show today is Richard Allen Bridge Guy. It's going to be a very good show, and if you stay through the end, I think you'll find it very, very interesting. If you like what we're doing, please like us and subscribe. If you think you'd like to subscribe to us, you think you like this kind of information we're putting out, please subscribe and comment. Most importantly, comment. We love your comments. We'd love to know what you think. You're our audience, and we're very concerned about what you think. There's no wrong or right here. It's only opinions. Nobody's wrong or right. So just feel free to comment and say whatever you'd like to say. With that being said, I want to send out our condolences to the family and friends of Libby and Abby. It's a very sad case. It's been sad at every show we've done has been a very sad show. This doesn't get healed only in 8 years or 7 years, whatever it is. I mean, this is pretty sad stuff for the families and friends. And again, our deepest condolences go out to you. The other thing is my book. I'd like to thank you all for purchasing my book, Discovering Lazarus, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of John Kelly, How I Beat a Real Hard, Heavy Cocaine Addiction, Became a Counselor, a Psychotherapist, and then became a profiler. So I can't thank you enough for all your kind words and purchases of Discovering Lazarus, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of John Kelly. The other thing I want to bring out with Richard Allen, you have to understand he is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. He is innocent until proven guilty. And that's where, we're going to find out exactly what's going on. When it goes to trial, if it goes to trial, might be a plea deal in the meantime. Keep your eye on it. Also, I want to talk about sending a shout out to Captain Howdy. Captain Howdy is a show that I think a lot of you would like and you should take a look at. He has some great knowledgeable information, and you can't find a lot of that on YouTube. I've learned from him, and I think you can learn from him too. Really smart guy, and really intelligent information. Like I said, I don't think you'll be disappointed in checking out Captain Howdy, the captain. With that all being said, I can't thank you enough. And all I can say is sit back, relax, and enjoy the show, and let us know what you think. Today, I want to talk about a video that's out there. And it's a video on Richard Allen's lifetime achievements, and it's put out there by Crime Night. And it's interesting, okay? The most important part of it is, it covers a lot of his life. It focuses on a lot of his life and a lot of the highlights of his life. It seems Richard never had a violent history. It seems there was no violence in Richard's history. None legally, for sure. There's no legal history, no record of him acting violent in any way. Although, just because you don't have a violent legal history doesn't mean somebody was violent and, never got caught, so they don't have a legal history. That happens. I'm watching it right now over in New York with the Long Island serial killer. He had no legal history. Okay, we've got him charged so far, I think, on 6 murders. Okay, but no legal history. And this guy's up there in age. This guy's like late 50s, early 60s, not sure. But this can happen. People can do things and not get caught, too. Something else that I'm interested in is, there were some traffic and I'm really not that interested. There was some traffic incidents that Richard had, and he had to pay some tickets, but who doesn't? You know, what's the big deal there? Who doesn't have a traffic ticket here or there, and who hasn't had to pay up over it? Crime Night also said that, Richard worked at an auto plant. I think it was Chrysler, but I'm not sure. Don't pin me down to that. And CVS. But Crime Night only gave those two places. He only gave those two places. You know, some of the feedback we've gotten in looking into Richard's work background is that he's worked at Walmart for a considerable amount of time. But there's no mention of Walmart here. Now, we also understand it was kind of a turbulent time for Richard Allen at Walmart. So I can understand why they may not put it in there, his career at Walmart, why it may not be put into, his work history on his video that Crime Night did. Okay. Also, we do believe there's a history of truck driving, but I'm not sure if that's right or wrong or indifferent. I don't know. We're going to check more into that. So there's some other jobs that have not been listed here by Crime Night. He worked other jobs besides the auto plant and CVS. Something else that really, really grabbed me was his National Guard service record. Just so happens I was in the National Guard as well. Richard, all power to him, he did 10 years in the National Guard. I only did the minimum. I did 7. I had to do 7. And, Crime Night pretty much focused on some of the training that Richard did while he was in the National Guard. He was in the infantry. Well, funny thing as it may be, what a coincidence, I was in the infantry too. So I find this very interesting. And Crime Night recalls in the video and points out Richard, in his days in the National Guard, excelled at the range and with various weapons, various rifles and probably pistols. I know what I had to do. I was in the same thing in the infantry, and pretty much you got to learn how to shoot various rifles, weapons, machine guns, pistols. You got to qualify with those weapons too. If you don't qualify, you may get recycled. You don't want to get recycled. You have to go back then and start all over. Believe me. And I was in Fort Polk, Louisiana in the hot days of Vietnam. And I'm not only talking it being hot in Vietnam when the war was cooking, but I'm talking it was hot in Fort Polk, Louisiana, where I was. It was the jump off spot for Vietnam. The difference is I was coming home. I didn't go to Vietnam. Okay. I was coming home in the National Guard. 90% of the guys I was with, they were going over the pond. They were going to Nam. Okay. So they wanted to put them in an environment to train them that was the closest environment to the Vietnam environment, to the weather, the temperature, and all of that. And the closest piece to that, or the closest place to that in the United States, was Fort Polk, Louisiana. And believe me, we trained in, pretty hot weather. And anybody watching that's been out there and, been through service, I truly respect you and appreciate you. And if you went over to Nam, I can't thank you enough back in those days, or for any wars, wherever you've gone and left the United States and gone to other countries to fight for our country. I can't thank you enough. Okay. But getting back to being in the infantry in the United States Army, pretty much what that is being trained on how to be a killer on the government's dime. That's what the infantry training is all about. They teach you how to kill the enemy. That's just the bottom line. Okay. So I talked about the weaponry, there's various rifles and pistols that you'll use. I mean, I remember they had a 45 pistol. I mean, it was terrible back in my day. I was in there long before Richard Allen. But I mean, in my day, you couldn't with that pistol. I mean, it was hard to hit a barn with it, but still, we found some way to qualify with it. You had to do it, just had to do it. The other pieces that went on in there is when you're involved in the infantry, you also take hand-to-hand combat. You learn hand-to-hand combat because, someday if you're fighting an enemy, it may come down to that, you know. And also hand-to-hand combat includes knives. So you learn, in your training in the infantry, again, how to kill the enemy with a knife. Okay, if it comes down to the hand-to-hand combat and you're not shooting, but you're up close and personal fighting for your life. Okay. So, I understand his service, and I thank him for his service. But also, I really think, Libby, when I look at Libby, especially between Libby and Abby, I mean, I think she was fighting for her life. I think it was like, hand to hand combat for her, just trying to survive, but not having a whole lot of training in that. Maybe she did. I don't know. I don't know. And then, of course, I have to talk about it. Looks like some kind of sharp instrument was used, maybe a knife. I don't know. I'm not up in the air with the box cutter. Could be a box cutter. If that is definitely it, it is it. But still, in all, it was a hand-to-hand combat she was involved in with the sharp instrument. That's how she was killed. Okay. And, she was focusing on survival. The other thing I want to talk about that Crime Night put out that it was very interesting was that, Richard Allen battled some depression early on through his life. I give him a lot of credit for overcoming it. And Crime Night mentioned major depression. I think major depression was the word I heard. Maybe not. If not, I'm wrong on it. Can really stir up a lot of stuff. People can really, act out with that in a lot of different ways. There's no question about it. And that brings me to, this part of Richard Allen's resume, if you will, that he ended up in Westfield Prison, versus a county prison. Well, I have a clinical background, and if you think somebody's going to be dangerous to themselves, is a danger to themselves or to somebody others, you've got to make sure that they get the right treatment. And lots of times that means they have to be sequestered from other people, whether it's in a public hospital, a psych unit in a public hospital, or, even if it's in prison. Okay, if you think that they may be a suicide risk or a homicide risk, you've got to keep them separate. And when I say a homicide risk, I mean, they could be a risk that somebody else commits homicide against them. I mean, you have somebody walking around and says, oh, look at this guy's been arrested for Libby and Abby, and even though he hasn't been found guilty, right? I mean, at this point, he's innocent of proven guilty. Somebody decides to take him out. So I understand why they took him and put him in Westfield Prison, all right? Because that way they could really have him isolated, keep a focus on him, see he gets the counseling like he did from the psychologist, see he gets the medication, which he did get from what I understand. He was medicated. I don't know what the medication is. If I knew, I could talk a little bit more about it. But in the county, it's very hard to isolate somebody like that. And the county is open. It's more open as people are around each other more. There's more activity going on. There's more socialization going on. And to be honest with you, that is a scary place if somebody really has it in for you and has a mat on because, they get in their head that you hurt or killed two little girls, I mean, they could go off. They have easier access to you, and they could really hurt you and kill you. So I understand why law enforcement put him in Westville prison. There's no doubt in my mind, because they felt he was a danger to himself or others. Okay. Now, the other thing that Crime Night talks about are possible odiness and whatever. And I'll tell you, the one thing that upsets me with this is putting names and pictures out there on people that you are pretty much calling them at least people of interest in the murders of Libby and Abby. So you're putting their names out there, you're putting their pictures out there. Law enforcement has looked at these people, I'm sure. Law enforcement has made a decision that they're not viable suspects. There's no physical evidence to link them. I think they've been eliminated by law enforcement in some which way, shape, or form, by phone or whatever, that they were not there that particular day, okay, when these girls were murdered. And, you know, when you turn around and you put a family out there like that, now I'm sure these guys aren't altar boys. Okay, I'm sure they've got their they have their you know, faults, and they've been arrested. Some of them, maybe not. I don't know, but you know, certainly they're known. Okay, but the bottom line is, what about their families, their kids, and everything? I mean, what? Why put them out there? I mean, you know, then you have you know, somebody's children going to school, and then you know, the kids at school, kids can be mean, and oh, you know, your father killed Libby and Abby, or your father could have done this, or your father could have done that. Of course, I don't believe they did, you know, but I'm just saying what kids could say at school. Kids could be cruel. Kids could pick on them. Kids could start a fight with them, you know. I mean, they could end up being abused. You know, why should they be abused? Even if their father did commit a crime, why should the child be abused? You know, let alone this all alleged stuff about them, you know, and Odinism and sacrificial sacrifices and this and that and everything else. Not that I'm saying, you know, that Crime Night is the first person that's talking about these guys. Certainly he's not, or she's not. But the bottom line is, I just don't care who it is. I don't think you have a right to run somebody's family through the fire, and at the very least, and mention their name unless they are a suspect by law enforcement and have been indicted by law enforcement. Then, I mean, it's front page news. It's out there. It's all over the place, like it is with Richard Allen. But these guys, man, it looks like they were, you know, just thrown into the fire. It looks like they were literally thrown into the fire by, you know, all these different forces. You know, the defense and various people online. And you know, Crime Night definitely put their names out there, that's for sure. And I'm pretty sure the pictures as well, but not good, because the names follows the children. Okay, so I don't like it. It's very, very bothersome to me. Also, you know, we have to understand that Crime Night attacked, I think, the prosecutor's father, one of the prosecutor's father, you know, because he has a record. Well, you know, that's different from his son. You know, his son is not responsible for what his father did. He's the child. The father's the adult in the room, right? He's not responsible. It looks like the son decided to go straight and went in a very, very awesome legal direction, you know, and very seems very passionate about it. So, you know, kudos to the prosecutor to have survived, you know, such a childhood. So that's I think that's really good, piece of this is that we see that maybe a father, took the wrong turn and, has a certain amount of charges against him throughout his life, but his child, his son, as prosecutor, has really gone in the other direction and is out to help people and trying to step and break down on crime, trying to prosecute crime. I mean, I give him a lot of credit. And of course, I always say, what does that have to do with the price? And that's why beat up on the father, or beat up on the son because of the father's sins of the father, right? I mean, why beat up the son? Now, last thing I have to say here is Richard Allen is now in a county jail. Richard Allen was initially put in Westville because they felt he might be a danger to himself, maybe to others, but definitely a danger to himself. They felt he was a suicide risk and they had to keep an eye on him, as I explained earlier. But the bottom line here now is, could he become suicidal again in the county? I don't know. Possible, possible. One of the best indications of committing suicide is past suicide ideations and having a history of possible suicide language and commenting on maybe he doesn't want to live anymore or whatever. I don't know, but usually if the biggest indicator of a suicide attempt is a suicidal kind of history in some way. So I'm concerned about that, and I'm concerned about, Richard Allen's situation right now in the county. Of course, I'm always concerned if somebody would attack him and try to hurt him in there, but also I'm concerned about him, having a suicide attempt because obviously the professionals thought he was suicidal or they would not have sequestered him and, put him under a suicide watch at Westfield. Okay, so, but that's my 2 cents for today. I know I'm talking a lot here. I hope I made some sense with all this. And we'll see where this all goes. I understand recently too that the judge is making admissible in court Richard Allen's definitely admissions of killing Libby and Abby. So we're going to have to see where that goes now. But looks like so far we're headed for court, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a plea deal here at all. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in. Always love you and appreciate you. Thank you so much. Most importantly, take care of yourself. Most importantly, keep an eye out, keep an eye on your surroundings. We live in a very dangerous world. And until we catch up again, have a safe day, have a great holiday. God bless and take care. Thank you.